Jerome Powell's debut, he tried not to say too much, but he did relay some concerns about the White House's trade policy to our own Adam Shapiro. But let's hear from the Fed chairman first.
A number of participants reported in about their conversations with business leaders around the country and reported that trade policy has become a concern going forward.
Let's bring in today's panel to talk about this. Jonathan Hoenig from Capitalistpig Hedge Fund. He's also Fox News contributor. Todd Horwitz, the host of the Bubba Trading Show. We got Chicago well represented today. Dan Mitchell, the co-founder of the Center for Freedom and Prosperity. Dan, let me start with you. The market kind of lost its triple-digit gains while Powell was speaking, specifically when he referenced the trade tariffs and concern that a number of businesses have about the increasing cost from that.
I think that's the number one concern that policymakers, economists, people in the business community have about the economy right now. If Trump gets a trade war going, sort of like we had in the 1930s, that wouldn't be a very good thing, and it would sort of offset a lot of the good news that we're seeing in terms of lower tax burdens, deregulation, and the fact that the Fed, I'll give them credit, they've done a pretty good job of trying to begin to normalize monetary policy. But the trade thing is sitting out there like a ticking time bomb. Let's hope somebody diffuses it.
Jonathan, we've got a very strong economy. We just heard from Phil Flynn at the CME. He's talking about the drawdown in oil and gas. I think a lot of that is because the economy is churning along. It needs more energy for production. That, to me, is great news. But the last time Jerome Powell spoke, he talked about his concern of an overheated economy. That doesn't concern me. When you're growing at 2% for 10 years, I could use a little heat in the economy. What?
Well, and interestingly, David, it doesn't see much indication of inflation looking forward. Not much more than 2% in terms of where the Fed sees inflation going. So you have a kind of mixed signals once again. Perhaps the Fed intends it that way. What I'm seeing, however, are some demonstrable signs of inflation. You know, there is no such thing as a free lunch. We've had almost a decade of these artificially low interest rates, David, and whether it's higher commodity prices or take a look at the 52-week low list, it is full of bond funds, bond ETFs. So I think perhaps the market would suggest that the Fed isn't going to be done exactly when it says it's going to be done, just as it wasn't done cutting on the way down, won't be done cutting on the way up.
Actually, Todd, you and I have been talking for years about our problems with these artificial rates. It was kind of the Obama way to stimulate the market because he wasn't stimulating by raising taxes and regulations.
Right. It's true. And for
hold
better
on,
or worse,
this is for Todd. Go ahead, Todd.
Now.
Thank you, Jonathan. Todd.
Well, I think what you're looking at here, David, is Houdini would be rolling over in his grave with the magic act that Powell just pulled off by getting the dollar to get killed and flush, which really keeps global rates really unchanged. So although they raise rates in the United States, globally, the people that borrow from us are going to pay the same rate because the dollar got hammered because of this announcement. So this was more of an illusion from my standpoint, and these rates are still artificial. And I want to know when we're going to start to talk about the debt, because we still never wanted to address all this debt problem that we have out here.
All right. Targeting Chinese trade, the Trump administration telling lawmakers on Capitol Hill today that action is needed.
Our view is that we have a very serious problem of losing our intellectual property, which is really the biggest single advantage of the American economy. We are losing that to China in ways that are not reflective of the underlying economics.
Dan, nobody has pushed back against them for a long time. They've been stealing intellectual property. The trade is not even close to free and fair. You know, everything from that to counterfeit goods coming into the country. I mean, there are just so many things.
The Trump administration, I think, is right to be concerned about, in effect, the cronyism or the mercantilism in the Chinese economic model. My concern, though, is that I think we would be much better served either going through the WTO or having a multilateral approach with the EU and Japan, who are also concerned about Chinese misbehavior. Because if we simply act unilaterally, all that happens is China then does tit for tat with us, and then they start buying more products from other countries. So the unilateral approach, I think, is the wrong way to address what is a real problem.
But Todd, I mean, when you wait for the Europeans to get on board, they are notoriously soft. I mean, they're never going to stand tough. And how much of this is about, is actually about North Korea. We're going to be tough on trade. And by the way, the elephant in the room is your support of North Korea as well.
Melissa, I think it's about time that we got tough and we forgot about what everybody else wants and try to negotiate these deals that will take forever. This is like getting a building permit to build a bridge in 10 years. Let's go at it and let's go after them. And again, either they're going to come back to us and say, hey, we're going to work out a deal, or they're going to stand on the other side. This is not Smoot-Hawley over again. This is going to be Donald Trump taking charge and flexing the United States' muscles.
Jonathan?
Well, I just hate to see political power and economic power, Melissa, get mixed. And, deals about fighting North Korea get mixed with, deals about us being able to buy a South Korean washing machine or a TV made in Japan, for that matter. Free trade is beneficial. The president doesn't believe this. I don't think he understands that it's win-win. The more free trade we have, the better of an economy we have. That's the foundation on which his policy should stand, not micromanaging every single trade every American wants to make.
Thanks, guys.
Isn't that what the Fed does?
Thanks, guys. Right?
We had enough with the Fed for the moment.
Good, yeah.